Around the world, people live different lives, doing different things that are unique and make us who we are, writing our own stories and learning new things along the way. We all learn different things. We all face different challenges and obstacles, but manage to get through them one way or another. We as humans go through our own journeys, and we learn as we build our own resilience. No matter how much we get beat down, what matters is how we get back up. And everyone loves a good story. Welcome to the Neil Coutts Show.
Thank you everyone for tuning in to today's episode of the Neil Coutts Show. Today's guest is Aaron Huey. Aaron is a crisis consultant. He works with families in crisis. As well as that, he's also the host of his own podcast called Beyond the Mats. And on top of that as well, he's also a United States Hall of Famer. Now, just before we get started, just don't forget to hit the subscribe button for me, please, guys, as obviously you'll be able to hear about this content as well as other content and future upcoming content. And hit that notification bell and smash that like button to help us out with the YouTube algorithm. But without further ado, thank you very much for coming onto the show there, Aaron.
Sure, no problem, Neil. It's good to see you again.
Likewise. So, Aaron, tell me a bit about yourself. You've got a bit of a colourful history, yeah? You've done a lot of things, and not all good things, but you've done a lot of good things too. So, did you grow up in Colorado yourself?
I did, actually. I grew up in a small town called Longmont, Colorado. Had an amazing dad, a wonderful mom. My dad was not my father. I started out in this world without a father. My mom, she went beyond doing her best. She did a really good job. Met a man, fell in love with her. She fell in love with him. He was an amazing daddy. Every violin concert, every hockey game, he was right there with me. It was really something. But the wound had already taken place, being abandoned by a biological parent. I grew up very ADHD. I still am very ADHD. That experience growing up in the 70s, a lot of less tolerance, way less understanding and knowledge about what ADHD really is. I was bullied mercilessly, really abused by a lot of friends and non-friends, as you can imagine. When I was 18 years old, I was sexually assaulted by my best friend while I was out in acting school.
Oh, wow.
Drug use started around 12 years old, just with me trying drugs, experimenting with drugs. The experimentation phase for me was a long one. It was after the sexual assault that took the cannonball off the high dive into the deep end. That immediately turned into daily use. I did not want to be here. I did not want to experience this anymore. Life, I had dealt with a lot of depression and even a bout of suicidality as a young teenager. But man, once I hit 18, 19, 20s like that, I was done. I did not want to be here. I found happiness in a relationship, not enough to quit using. Found immense joy in becoming a dad of a just amazing, beautiful daughter. But that dragon had its claws in me, and I continued to use until my daughter was about 2 years old. My wife was done, and her courage to leave my sorry butt really kicked me in the ass to admit that I had a massive problem, but was not courageous enough to do anything about it yet. I was 28 years old. It was March 21st, 1998, where May 21st, 1998, where it all came to a crashing halt. And that's where life really began. That's where I was a dad, being a good dad, started. I was not present with my daughter. I was there. I was laying on the couch. I was playing with her, but I was not with her. I was not really there. I was high. I was a terrible husband. I was a terrible employee. So I could not keep a job, did not want to keep a job. And really, at 28 years old, that's where my life began. And shortly after that, started a martial arts school, very small, in my garage. I had had a love affair of martial arts ever since I was 12 years old. Around the same time that I smoked pot for the first time, I did karate in PE class, and that love affair grew as well throughout my life. So it was in my first year of sobriety that I started a small school, and that really took a massive turn when I had a mom come to me and said, my kid has just tried to kill himself for the third time. I caught him. I caught himself hanging himself in the closet. Wow. And can you teach him martial arts? What am I going to say? No. Yeah. So, of course, I said yes, and then figured out what to do correctly from there. That fear and that risk made me pay attention. That mom was a teacher, and she told the counselor at her school, and that led to another parent who said, hey, my kid's really ADHD. And I'm like, well, so am I. And I became the martial arts teacher in Boulder, Colorado, who would take the kids who couldn't make it anywhere else. Hey, my kid's a drug addict. Bring them on in. My daughter's been trafficked. I got a place for her. Hey, my kid was a runaway. They got a home now. I didn't care. I just wanted to give in my sobriety, in my 12-step process, and having two really incredible mentorship experiences from martial arts teachers to me. It was my turn to be the kind of man that my father could not be and my dad was. And see, that was the big thing, right? I had a father and I had a dad, and it was time for me to choose which one I was going to be. And so I became my dad, and I love my dad. I admire my dad. My father's dead. He died from his alcoholism.
Ouch.
But yeah, that's how martial arts school grew into kids camps, grew into teen rites of passage program, grew into a teen sober home, grew into a residential treatment center for teenagers, grew into the top performing residential treatment center for teenagers, all the while having martial arts as a foundation. And when we closed our treatment center due to the fires in Colorado, I really took everything I had been doing for 20 years and 15 years in treatment and recovery, and turned around and said, when a parent, when a family, when a child is in absolute crisis, worst of the worst, I can be there in that moment. I can be the one that they call and say, what the hell do we do? And I can think straight. And that's right. That's martial arts. That's outdoor survival. That's emergency medicine. It's like when the shit hits the fan, can you keep it together? Can you focus in the chaos and go, we got this, all right? We'll figure it out. Step 1, step 2, step 3. That's me. I have the audacity to believe that I can do it long enough that I did it. And you said at the beginning, Beyond the Mat, you actually mixed up both of my podcasts. It's Beyond Risk and Back and The Mat. And Beyond Risk and Back is my parenting podcast, and The Mat is my martial arts podcast. So I now can happily say at 53 years old, as now a successful daddy and a successful dad to a son who I helped raise, I get to do what I love, and that's martial arts, and that's that 12th step, taking the message of hope to people who have none.
Wow. So sorry for mixing up your show, but I think I just gave you...
It's fine. Like you said, you put them both together, and I'm like, wow, Beyond the Mat is a really good name for a show. I wish I had thought of that. Beyond Risk and Back and Beyond the Mat. Damn it. No, but it's Beyond Risk and Back. Yeah. That's the parenting one, and The Mat. That's the martial arts one.
Cool. Well, there you go. The next podcast you come out with, you got an awesome title there. Yeah?
Yeah, Beyond the Mat. I love it.
So what was it like having ADHD? It was in the 70s, right? Have I got that right? Because they didn't have the education there, and it was a little bit taboo about it, you know. Like for myself, I've got ADHD, but my parents didn't believe I had it. It was
Yeah.
just that's just the way the person is, or that's the way I was, you know. And it's, you can see that in my parents, they have it too. And so because it wasn't labeled back then, it was just a way of life. But then people treated you differently because you're not like them. You're not chilled, calm, collected. You're just, it's just mayhem, I guess, you know, like you just want to be active. You just want to be doing something. There's excitement in your voice. What was it like in the 70s? Because that would have been like the beginning, I guess, when they started to look into it, you know, because it wasn't till really like the 80s, from what I hear, that they really sort of got that label, yeah?
Yeah, you know, first of all, Neil, when you and I first met, I was like, oh, he's got ADHD. I mean, like, you're a kindred spirit, man. There's no such thing as too many things, you know. And when someone says focus, the response is, I am. You're focusing on one thing. I'm focusing on 10 things. Don't tell me to focus on one thing. My brain doesn't focus. Tell you what, when you can focus on 10 things like my brain can, then you can tell me to focus on one thing like your brain can. When you can think like me, then tell me to think like you. But don't tell me I should think like you because your way of thinking is better. And isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Because when we're kids, our way of thinking is like, oh, you know, it's like a death sentence diagnosis. Oh, your kid's ADHD. Oh, God, I'm so sorry. That's going to lead to drugs. And then when we get older, we find out that all these mega rich businessmen and women are ADHD.
That's true.
It's like, so which is it? Am I doomed to failure, or am I bound for success? And at some point, and this is one of the things I really credit my parents on, because in the 70s and 80s, you're still quite at the mercy of the doctors who know all and, you know, are the smartest among us. And they're not. And I'm not saying doctors are bad. That's not what I'm saying, is that they are trained in certain things and you go to them for certain things. But what they weren't trained in is brain chemistry.
Yeah.
They weren't trained in child development. They weren't trained in nutrition. And so when Ritalin became the thing to give, which is a methamphetamine for crap's sake, you know, but it works. And all these people say, well, you know, I took some ADHD meds and I could focus great. Well, no shit, anybody could. Right? It makes me almost normal. It makes you superhuman. And that's how people on meth feel. Now, listen, I'm not against meds.
Yeah.
I've been in the mental health and addiction industry long enough to know, first of all, that I don't know if I'd have made it through school at all without medication. Second of all, I think medication helped me develop a really good drug addiction. So I've got both sides of the coin that I can look at pretty open and honestly. And my mom wasn't just like, give him some pills. My mom was progressive enough to say, there's something going on in his body. Like, we're going to check into nutrition. And she found this book called If You Love Me, Don't Feed Me Junk. And my pediatrician also said, hey, you gotta check his diet. Stop with the sugars. No more of the food colorings. Like it's okay if he has caffeine, not soda. Coffee's good. Don't put sugar in it. And I would order coffee at a restaurant and the waiters and waitress would look at my parents like, oh, what? And because these pills, they connect the things in our brains that won't connect naturally, right? What it was like having ADHD as a kid in the 70s, it was the same as now. I was the kid that you know, the other kids in the neighborhood said, my mom told me I can't play with you. You know, at school, I could tell when the teacher was upset because I was hypervigilant to her body language and her nervousness. Because if she got nervous, I got kicked out. If she got upset, I sat in the hall. If the kids next to me got distracted, I was booted from the tribe. And that creates a new kind of development. Wow. So yeah, when I smoked pot, the world slowed down. And it made sense to me that that was normal. When I smoked pot, I got happy. And when I wasn't happy, I was suicidal. So it made sense to keep smoking pot because now I was moving at everybody else's speed. Now I wasn't suicidal. But now everybody wanted me to stop using drugs constantly because I didn't smoke pot like, oh, hey, it's a football game today. Let's pass a bowl and not smoke pot again for 2 months. I was all day, every day. And I was drinking to support that when I didn't have it. And then I found LSD. Wow. And Neil, at the end of my addiction, I was up to 11 hits of acid a day. I did not want to be here anymore. So what was it like being a kid? It was like having fucking superpowers and being told if you use them, you got punished. And now as an adult, I use my ADHD every single day. Earlier today, I've done 5 podcasts today, 3 of my own, 2 as a guest. And accomplished work while I've been doing podcasts. I had 3 computers set up and I had 3 different programs going because I had emails to send for this business. I had billing to do over here. And then I was watching YouTube videos over here that were feeding my mind the positive affirmations and reaffirmations that I want. What's it like? It's like heavy metal flamenco dancing scream therapy in my head 24/7. And I don't sleep well. But when I'm up at 4 a.m., I'm up and I go to the gym and then I have my coffee and then I eat and then I work like a machine all day long. And my success is because I'm not willing, wanting to, or capable of slowing down. And is that hard on other people? Good God, yeah. My wife is the most loving, wonderful, understanding. My kids are amazing. I adore them and worship them and admire them for putting up with my hyperactive bullshit. So what's it like? The best way I've ever been able to describe what it's like to be ADHD is very simply, I'm not you. Now, you understand what I'm saying, Neil.
Yeah.
Because these people are like, let's just do some meditation. And I'm like, I'm not you. If you want me to meditate, play some heavy metal music and turn on a rock tumbler. Then I can concentrate. Wow. People are like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, not to you, but I'm not you. So that's why martial arts has always been the go-to. That's why working with families in crisis, being in the battle zone of addiction and abandonment and abuse and assault and self-harm and trafficking and running away, that's my zone. We're built for the battlefield. Don't put me in the laboratory. Put me on the battlefield, right? Small business, being an emergency room worker, being a teacher, being a nurse, being a firefighter, being a paramedic, being a martial arts instructor, that's our zone.
Yeah. Well,
so that's what it's like.
Well, I've always, I've always been into martial arts myself, and it helped me keep focused, because you were stuck in whether it was a dojo, a room, whatever you want to call it, but you had to focus on the task at hand. And yeah, I guess, the exercise of it was good, but these brains, they don't quite actually, they're amazing, but they just don't have a manual. They don't come with a manual at all. And it's
but think about your martial arts dojo for a second. It's not just focusing on the task. Think of everything that was on the walls that when you turned away, it kept you with the martial arts, right? The mirrors, the swords, the punching bags, the tackle dummies, the strike pads, the belts, the Japanese or Chinese writing, the Korean code of honor. No matter where you looked, you were reminded of what you were doing. And so you had 15 things that focused you on one thing. That's our brain, right? And then you got to spar.
Yeah.
And you had to watch every body twitch and movement, and you see that back foot shift, and they're going to jump with a jab. Yeah. You see that front foot go up on its toes, and the weight shifts to the back. A front kick's coming, and everybody else is like, "How did you see that coming?" And it's like, because while you're staring at my eyes, I'm looking at your eyes and your body language and the car that just drove by, the windows outside that had a person in the background and they had a blue hat on, and the car was red, and they pulled into the spot right next to the white truck that's in front of the grocery store. 3 people just went into the grocery store, and oh yeah, I'm in a sparring match. And that's our brains, and it works. You just got to be in the right room so that it works right.
So yeah. So that's that analogy. You hit the nail on the head there. I've never thought of it that way. Me mainly is just my motto through life is just be cool, calm, and collected. The drug use. I don't know if it's escapism, but it does slow you down a bit and just allows you to just be in the moment. Because otherwise, when you're not, you're just thinking about a million other things, yeah?
Yeah, and it does. It shuts you down. It's interesting because, it is a crutch, and crutches have a purpose, right? Crutches are to help you take the weight off an injury so that you don't injure it further. Ibuprofen's a crutch. If you've got a bad headache and you take ibuprofen, well, it blocks the pain receptors, right? The pain is still there. You're just not feeling it. Well, drugs are mental and emotional ibuprofen. And like any crutch, it's okay for a minute because, man, too much pain, people with chronic pain and back pain and knee pain, the opioids provide relief.
Yeah.
They're not bad. It's that at some point in the pain relief process, you have to start putting weight on it. Once it's healed, just enough. Once your body has calmed down from the reaction and the trauma of being in constant pain, and am I talking physical or emotional? Yes. When you have a kid who's been trafficked, a girl, and I've worked with lots of girls who have been, every girl, let me say that again, every girl I have ever worked with has been sexually assaulted. Damn. And I've worked with thousands. And when they use drugs, you know what they're not thinking about? Okay, so how long can you think about it before you go, this thought hurts, and I have no way to make this pain go away? And then they get high, and the pain goes away. Okay, well, that's a good moment to start therapy when you're not in constant pain, right? The healing process, physical therapy, emotional therapy, intellectual therapy. But start to deal with the pain, the source of the pain. Yeah. Get in there, dude. Take the medicine. Yeah, it can't just be pills, though. It's got to be pills and skills. Pills and skills. Because you can't stay on the crutch forever. At some point, you've got to put weight on the broken foot so that it starts to heal. When it's ready, when it's done a little bit of healing. But yeah, that cast, those crutches, smoking dope, drinking 2 glasses of wine while you binge watch 3 episodes of whatever on TV, that's a crutch.
Yeah. So what was your turning point in your life? What made you put that pressure on the leg and go like, it's time to start moving forward? How did you experience a dark moment or something like that you were like, what was your turning point?
I was 27 years old. My first wife, she, as I said before, and I stand by this, she had the courage to say, I'm done and I'm taking our daughter. And she was wonderful about sharing as much custody as was appropriate for someone who was using drugs all day long and who, was often on intense hallucinogenics. The real pain point was when the mediator, as we were going through our divorce, told me that my parenting was conditional on my sobriety. At that point, I did not see how I could live life sober. That was tough. On the way home from that, I realized I had become my own biological father, a dude I had never met, that I had left my daughter and cared more about something else than this unbelievably beautiful being. And that started the real pain. That started the truth of the pain. That uncovered the depth of the pain. And that hurt so much, the drugs stopped working. The The pain didn't go away no matter how much I smoked or how much LSD I took or how much I drank. At that point, I was living in my parents' house in my brother's old bedroom, or I was living in the back of my truck at the East Boulder Rec Center here in Boulder, Colorado. And I would get up and my parents would be at work and I would drink vodka straight with milk, with orange juice. It did not matter. It was never about the taste. It was, can I make this go away? The feeling of self-loathing was massive. On May 20th, 1998, I finally just hit my knees. And I asked any god, any angel, any goddess, I just said, you've got to stop me because I'm not going to stop. I've tried and I've failed. You got to make me quit because I'm not going to do this on my own. This is stronger than me, but it's not stronger than you. Make me stop. I need a miracle. Please, God. Oh, please, God. I need a miracle. I'm paraphrasing a prayer I read in Marianne Williamson's book, Illuminata. I went to bed that night just crying. The next morning, I got up and I got high. And I took a shower and I got high. And I ate some breakfast and I got high. And I got in my truck and I got high. And I was on my way to a job that I hated. I was working in a plastic injection molding plant, 12-hour shifts.
Wow.
From noon to midnight, watching a machine do all the work and making sure it doesn't break. Like I could fix it if it did. I was like, whatever. And my truck stalled, drove off to the side of the road. Could not get it started. Big Ford F-250, I called the beast. So I drifted off to the side of the road. I grabbed my drugs and I walked the couple miles to a payphone, to a gas station that I knew was up ahead. And I saw this little white country church on the road up in front of me. And I heard this noise. And I was terrified. I knew what was happening. I knew what was coming. I was going to get a miracle. And as I got closer to the church, and it just kept getting louder and louder. It was overwhelming everything. This little one-room country church, picture it. It's what I saw.
Yeah.
I'm standing across from the church and I cannot look at it. And the noise is now like this. And I know if I look, it's over. Let me preface this moment by saying I had been initiated into witchcraft around 12 years old. I've been a lifelong pagan and an atheist because I was raised by atheist parents, but also who were very progressive. And we went to the Christian churches on Christmas and Easter. And my parents were open to talking about everything. And so I had, at this time, especially after years of drugs and deep work into paganism and getting to know the Christian mythos as much as the Nordic mythos or the Celtic mythos or the Roman or Greek or the Egyptian, they were all just these wonderful stories. I was a true believer of the gods and goddesses. And here I am across from this little white Christian church. This noise is just overwhelming my senses. I'm terrified because I'm not ready to quit. And I know God's going to make me stop now. And I turn and I look at this church and Christ is standing there. Wow. The symbol of Christ, the Middle Eastern Jewish, dark-skinned, curly black hair, kindness, love, forgiveness. And that experience of that consciousness of love and forgiveness. Was I hallucinating? Maybe. Was I standing in front of Jesus? Maybe. I've certainly stood in front of a lot of gods and goddesses in my lifetime as a very devout spiritual person. Was I high some of the times? Oh, yeah. And I was high this time too.
Wow.
But that feeling of love, it washed me. And this man said, you can throw your drugs away right now and walk away from them and never look back. And I took my bag of weed out of my pocket and I dropped it on the ground. And I kid you not, I wish I was lying, but these are these miracle moments that the people in the 12-step rooms talk about. And I had one. I dropped the weed on the ground and a wind went and blew it out of my eyesight. And I took my pipe out of the other pocket and I threw it in a ditch. The noise stopped. I started to cry and I walked to the gas station. I called my dad and he came and picked me up. That was one, Neil.
Mm.
Then I got home and I went upstairs to my brother's room. And I opened the phone book and I found the Triangle Club, the 12-step group in Longmont, Colorado. And I called them and somebody picked up on the first ring and said, Triangle Club, can I help you? And I said, when is your next Narcotics Anonymous meeting? I think I'm a drug addict. And he said, where are you? I'll come get you. And I said, don't do that. And this guy said, it's okay, brother. It's going to be okay. And I said, don't fucking say it. And he goes, I love you. And I said, I can't do this right now. And he goes, there's a meeting every hour. If you need a ride, somebody will come get you. And he hung up the phone. And I quit. I quit that day. I quit the day. That was 2. The next morning, I didn't have work. I got up and I decided that I was going to go to a 12-step meeting at noon, which was when I was supposed to normally be at work. So I told my parents that I just had a meeting at work that I was going to. And I was really going to go to my first 12-step meeting, my Narcotics Anonymous meeting. And I went downstairs at about 11 o'clock. And my parents were watching Clean and Sober with Michael Keaton. And it was a movie from the 80s about a dude going to 12-step rooms and getting sober. And I was sitting on the couch next to them like, are you kidding me? Like, this is a miracle. And I knew at that moment I had to kill the secret. My parents didn't know. I had to kill this secret so I could kill this sickness. And I turned off the TV, and my mom, she's got this funny little voice she does, and she's got this look, and she looks at me and she goes, excuse me. And I looked at her and I knew I was about to break this woman's heart. And I said, I'm not going to a meeting at work. I'm going to a 12-step meeting because I think I'm an addict. Wow. And my mom just went pale. And my dad, this man who I have lied to and stolen money from, and whose biological sons I've been a shitty older brother to, and whose wife's heart I've just broke yet again. He puts his hand on my shoulder and he says, whatever you need me to do, I'll do, because I love you.
Wow, that's family support there.
And that was it, Neil. That was it. That was all it took was... That's all it took. It was God, it was a stranger, and it was my daddy who said, I loved you. And it was the first time that I went, oh man, this thing that I've been seeking my whole life has been looking for me. It's been here the whole time, and I just let it in, and it's healed me. And that's it. That was love. And it was love from men. It was love from the masculine. It was love from the father and the spirit, this masculine thing that had abandoned me and abused me and assaulted me. Now it loved me. Or now I let the love of these men into my life. And I haven't used drugs. I haven't drank. I've been a present mentor and a loving parent and a man who goes to children who are suffering and say, I love you, I believe in you, and I will say this until you can say it for yourself. And I do it through martial arts, and I do it through talking, and I do it through throwing axes, and I do it through eating Ethiopian food, but I do it. And that's, you talked at the beginning about being in the Hall of Fame. I'm not in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame because of my kicks and punches. God, I wish I was. But I'm at that Hall of Fame, and I'm watching those women and men punch and kick. No, they are my superiors.
Yeah.
I am in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame because I have used martial arts since I was 12 years old to heal and to give as medicine to those who need healing. So that's the day it changed. May 21st, 1998.
Wow. So throughout that journey, right, of rehabilitation, did you face any challenges, or was it just the light switch just flicked on and basically it was time for change, yeah?
You know, the challenges I faced after that seemed, I mean, they were big. There's been huge challenges in my life, massive business changing, business ending, business starting, relationships, marriages, you know, the massive challenges in my life that everybody have. But this dragon that had haunted me, I finally was warrior enough to face it and to fight it and to stand my ground and to say, this cave you live in, dragon, this is mine too. And that gold that you've stolen, that's mine. This is right, because that's what the dragon does. It steals your self-worth. Right? That's the symbol of the gold in the cave of the innermost self, the darkest place of your very own soul where no one dares to dread. That's where the dragon lives. Well, you walk to the back and you battle that bastard and you learn how to ride that bastard and you train that bastard. Does the trauma go away? God, no. I'm still heartbroken that my father abandoned me and devastated and traumatized that my best friend sexually assaulted me and have fears around bullying and things like that and am overcautious and still very ADHD. But that gold is mine and that dragon belongs to me now. And I ride it. And this wound has become my way. This pain is my path. These tears are my trail. My wreckage is my fucking resume. And this mess has turned me into a messenger. So I embrace the shadow. Wow. So yeah, I've had problems, but I'm also able to stand and face them and help others face theirs and learn how to ask for help. Because I couldn't have done this alone, and I didn't.
So what are some of these tactics, like when life gets tough, what do you do with yourself to stay on the straight road, basically? Like, what do you have any, like, how can I say, exercises or do you like routines or something? Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
I do. First of all, martial arts remains a constant.
Yeah.
All right. The practice, the training, casual, intense, Tai Chi by myself, training with that 6-year-old who had tried to kill himself 3 times. He's my training partner. He's 24 now. And we still do knife work and punch and kick and train and laugh and, you know, my hetero life mate, Jeff Hamilton, Sensei Hamilton, and I still punch and kick. And for his birthday, we had a knife fight for 3 hours, you know. So yes, I absolutely still train, but my little tips, tricks, tools, tactics, and techniques, I've got one that I love, and it's kept me from a lot of pain. And that's very simply, and I've been doing this one for years. When something's happened, I ask myself the question, will this matter in 5 years? Because if it doesn't matter now. I can deal with it. It might be intense, but it's not 5 years from now intense. And if it's going to matter in 5 years, how's it going to matter? Like that it keeps me out of getting in fights. It's like somebody's being an asshole and I want to confront them. And I'm like, look, if I walk away, this moment is gone and it won't matter in 5 years. But if I bust his leg and punch him in the throat, Well, this is going to matter in 5 years. There will be repercussions, and that keeps me from road rage BS. That keeps me from, is this fight with my wife? Is this a 5-year fight or is this a 5-minute fight? Oh, it's a 5-minute fight, which means we're going to be okay in 5 years. Okay, we're good. Right? That calms my nervous system. That's my biggest one that I utilize constantly. My discipline, martial arts being constant, but my discipline is what time I wake up. I don't care what time people go to bed. I don't care if you stay up late or go to bed at 6:30 in the afternoon before dinner, and that doesn't matter. But to me, what time you get up is what matters. And that's a discipline that I keep. Because I get up early, I sit down on the couch, I doom scroll or hope scroll, depending on Facebook or Reddit or whatever, and I look at the news, and then I look at the funny memes, and then I look at the cat videos, and then I look at the dog rescue videos, and I feel good because if I start doom scrolling, I'm going to end by hope scrolling. Oh. And then I go to the gym, and then I start my work day. But that morning is my ritual. It belongs to me. An hour and a half to drink coffee and do nothing. And then my day begins in the gym. And I move my body, because if my body isn't activated, my brain is overactive. The other thing I do, and I started this the day after I got sober. The day after I got sober, I started making a to-do list. Because I never did before. And my only promise to myself was I was going to try to change one thing that I never did. My life was chaos. Now I was going to try. It's ADHD, right? It's chaos. And when it's real, honest chaos, there is no outcome. There is no end that justifies the chaos. Chaos is without determination or a determinable end. That's what identifies it as chaos. So if my life had been chaos for 14 years, today was not going to be, because these are the things that I was going to do. Did I do them all? Good God, no. But that turned into a healthy habit for me. And to this day, I keep a day timer every single day. This is mine. I created my own day timer after years and years of using everybody else's. And I've used them all, love them all. Franklin Covey, the day timer brand itself, downloadable ones that I could get on the internet, used them all, love them all, but never found the one that had everything I wanted me to do every day to keep my life in a creation process. And that's what it says on the front of my version. Create the day or the day creates you. Create your life or your life creates you. I had spent my childhood and 20s reacting to life, creating me. Now all of my business success has come from me creating my day. And so I spend dedicated time every day. What am I doing? Who am I calling? When am I doing it? What ideas do I have? What are my affirmations for the day? And I write my affirmations down. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantity through multiple sources on a continuous basis. Every day and in every way, my life gets better and better. Whatever it is for that day, I write it down like Bart Simpson on the blackboard, right? Because if it works when we're misbehaving, it's got to work when we behave too. Yeah. And then another segment is obviously what I eat, what I do in the gym, and then every bank account I have. I check every bank account every day and see how much money I have. And when people say, oh, you really, do you look at your bank account every single day? My response is, don't you? And why wouldn't you? Like, don't you want to know how much money you have? Well, it didn't change from yesterday. And you know that because you checked it, and so this is my day timer. It is published. It is available to people to purchase and everything. I don't sell it actively, but that's my design. And then 4 days ago, I've added a new ritual, and I love this one. And I do this one at night now, right before I go to bed. I've done it every night for the past 4 days. If you want to know how it's been working, ask me in a couple years. But I heard somebody say this on Instagram, actually. And I said, I'm going to try it. And I freaked out at how good I felt. So what I say 1 to 3 times before I go to sleep is, Thank you for showing me that this issue has been resolved. And somebody on Instagram said, oh, so-and-so from the 1920s created this, and it's the most powerful manifestation, blah, 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 blah. Everybody's got the most powerful manifestations. But there was something about that one that called to me, and I've been saying it every night since. Holy crap. I like how I feel. Thank you for showing me.
Yeah, no, yep.
Thank you for showing me that this issue is resolved. That one, that's changing me, and I love it. So I'm going to keep going with it. But those are my tools and tactics to maintain failing forward. Because that's all I do, Neil, just like everybody else. I fail forward. I keep going. I'm audacious enough to believe I deserve a parade for this. So I'm just, no matter what happens, it gets me closer to my goal. And my goal, I expect. You remember the exercise that we were doing when we asked each other for days? Tell me who you are.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I found my answer in that exercise. I cracked when I found it. I am God's caffeine buzz. I am a physical manifestation of God's energy. So what's it like having ADHD? It's like having infinite, abundant energy. How you use it, well, that's up to you.
Wow. Yeah, I found gratitude, like I was talking to a guy about it, it was last year or the year before, and gratitude is a very powerful thing because it makes you feel good, and just expressing gratitude can make a big difference to yourself. Do you feel the same with that?
It's very interesting. I will never disagree with people who use the gratitude affirmation process. And a part of one of my manifestations that I use regularly, I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantity through multiple sources on a continuous basis. That's one of Bob Proctor's famous ones. There's an 8-hour YouTube video of him, that sentence looped for 8 hours. You can sleep with it on. Like, it burns and hacks the brain chemistry. Love it. But I've not been a big gratitude list guy. That one doesn't call to me. And that's what I want to tell people is, like, find the affirmation that you're so happy saying that you can't not say it. Find those, stick with those, stay in line with those. But everybody likes to say, oh, you got to do the gratitude one. No, shut up. I don't got to do nothing. Right? And if it works for you and it helps you sleep and brings joy to your life, who am I to tell you to do anything other than what brings you joy in life? Do that. Sleep well and be joy. And whatever works, work it. You're worth it.
It's not so much the affirmation or this Bob Proctor one, but it's just more like grateful for waking up today, to being grateful if your wife puts a meal on the table, saying thank you, just being grateful, gratitude. Not so much affirmations as such, but because you got to live in the moment, and when you're present in the moment and you do these sort of things, then it's sort of like you're mentoring. You're grateful for the guidance you had through your mentorship, and so now you do the same thing back with troubled youth and troubled people, and so in that way of form, it's a bit of gratitude too there, for the changes that you've made from the mentorship. Yeah,
I think it's interesting because I'm listening to you say that, and I start to marvel at the fact that and it makes sense, but we've had to make gratitude a practice rather than being. Because you just mentioned that about just being present, being right here, right now. The moment you are that, gratitude follows naturally. And so we use gratitude as a reverse hack, right? It's a reverse engineering process to just be here now, like just right in this moment. It's you and me, Neil. This is right now. We're just talking, and that's it. And the moment we're here, politeness shows up. You know, that my wife, when I'm working and sitting in front of these, Zoom calls and video calls and Skype calls and all day, she'll walk up and she'll put a plate down of food for me. And it's easy to expect. It's easy to deny. It's easy to ignore. But to be present with that moment, to be like, whoa, food. And a beautiful woman who brought me this food, who's mothered my children, who said yes to me, who shares her life, her body, her mind, her spirit, her voice with me, her dreams with me. Holy crap, I'm home right here, right now, like home. Not just in a house. I'm home. And isn't that where we're all going, right? We're just all trying to get home.
Yeah.
And so yeah, gratitude's a practice until you just are gratitude.
Yeah. Because I find that most people, they don't, because they're too much on the go these days, that they forget what's around them. I was talking to one guy before and he was like, when I engage in an event or a discussion, I drop everything aside because I want to be there. Whereas, how can I say, most of the time we just have things flying in our head. There's more and more stresses these days, but just being present in the moment helps you to, be happy, I guess.
Yeah. Growing up ADHD, it was hard to think that the way I thought was okay. I didn't have a lot of people telling me that the way I did things was okay. So I think I was blessed with the gift of audacity to stop caring what other people were telling me about how I thought, because I didn't see that changing anytime soon. This is how I think. Like, love it or get lost in it.
Well, yeah.
Right? It's the Force. And am I a Sith or am I a Jedi? Because both of them get to use the Force. I just got to figure out what I'm going to use it for. And I think ADHD is the same thing. I think martial arts is the same thing. I think a lot of life is just figuring out which team you're on.
So with just, we're coming up close to the 1 hour mark actually, but I wanted to just ask you a few more questions about you working with other families. Like,
sure.
So what are some of the things you do with these families? Because obviously I know what motivates you, but what are some of the things that you do with these families to help foster positive attitude and positive change?
Right. And positive attitude and change is tough, when your child's in an acute psychiatric unit because they just tried to kill themselves. Your job as a coach or as a consultant is to hold the vision of success until they can hold it for themselves. Your job as a consultant or a coach is to present strategies, suggest them, right? Because once they're on the playing field, your job as a coach is to stay on the sidelines. You don't get to jump in and play. You throw plays from the sidelines. What they do on the field is largely in reaction to the minute changes and emotional triggers that are going on. So your job is to suggest strategies that have proven successful in the past. And a lot of times you're going to come up with them on the fly because of what you see from the sidelines, because the people in the game are involved in that moment to moment, and you've got the bird's eye view. You've got the 30-foot view of what this family is going through. And so it's your job to be honest with them as a consultant or a coach, to not cookie cutter or to cookie it or cupcake it or soften it or sugarcoat it. If a parent says, I did this, this, and this, and you go, how did it work for you? And they go, slam in the door and kick the hole in the wall. I said, well, then don't do that again. That's it. Or I've had, I can't tell you how many times, well, my kid's just, acting suicidal to get my attention. My response is, yeah, give them attention. Because either they're suicidal and we got a problem, or they are threatening self-harm because they're not getting enough attention. And that means we got a problem. So either way, we got a problem. So how about we all act like there's a problem? Like your job as a coach is to call the play, call the ball as it is. The other thing is your job as a consultant or a coach is to explain, to make sense of why things are the way they are. Everybody's living in survival mode. When I meet a child who's in survival mode, I don't need to know how the parents are doing. I know how the parents are doing. They're in survival mode. And everybody's saying, if they, then I. Oh, if only Neil would stop blank blank, then I could be happy. If only my husband would change how he parents, then everybody would get along. If only my child would stop using drugs, then I wouldn't search their room. That's not how this goes. This life is not an if they, then I. This is an I must. That's it. And so you, as a consultant or a coach, help them make sense while they're in survival mode of why things are happening. And you pull them out of the survival brain, the limbic brain, the lizard brain, and you put them back into the prefrontal cortex, the king and queen brain, the human brain. You say, why does my kid smoke pot? Well, because it fulfills a need. Well, what need? Well, safety, power, connection, freedom, or worth. Pick one. Well, I mean, connection, they got a new group of friends. Okay, so it's fulfilled a basic human need. Well, they can get it without. Yeah, but it's easier with weed. Well, why do they cut? Safety, power, connection, freedom, worth. Well, I suppose it's freedom because when you cut, you feel relief, and now you're not in pain. Great, now you know why they cut. And you know what? It doesn't matter which one it is, actually, whether it's safety, power, connection, freedom, or worth. What matters is they stopped reacting and they started thinking. They put on their human brain, their parent brain, their adult brain, and they stopped reacting to a child's struggle, expecting the child to change. No child is responsible for changing the house. No child is responsible for a parent's happiness. And so the first part of being a parent, family consultant, child coach, is to let the parents know what happens next is not up to the child, because it's a child. I can't tell you that the child is going to survive this crisis, but as their parent, you have to, because the only way the child's going to learn how to survive is if they watch you do it. So let's start surviving, like really surviving, outdoor survival type surviving, where you start to thrive. And that's what you do. You're the breathing when everybody's holding their breath, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Wow.
So that's a big part.
So when you work with these families, it sounds like a little bit of work with the parents too.
I do not work with children by themselves. I only work with teens whose families have committed to doing the work too. Otherwise, I tell them to go somewhere else. And that's hard for the parents because they haven't begun to question their strategies. So in the first phone call with me, I want to say I use my powers to get them to admit it's not that they did it wrong. It's that everything they've done has gotten the family here.
Yeah.
And if this is not where they want to end up, then they've got to do something different. That they can admit to. This is not, well, you're enabling your child. I don't believe in that shit. Parents are doing whatever they can think of to help their children survive and thrive. And they get frustrated when it doesn't work. And so then they do things out of fury, fatigue, and fear. Your job as a consultant is to say, okay, let's stop here for a second, because everything we've been doing got us right here to this moment. Is your child alive? Okay, good. Then it's been working though so far. So now let's change the game. Let's call a new play. Now, parents, can you commit to a new play? Great. Hey, kiddo, I'm here to work with you and your parents. Now, your parents have committed to calling a new play. My job is to make sure they do for your sake, kiddo. Now, if your parents chill out, what are you going to do to match it? And that's how the work begins. That's why kids want to work with me. And I show up with throwing axes. Because I don't sit on a couch and talk.
Yeah.
We go outside and we throw axes. We throw spears. We sword fight. We do martial arts. We weight lift. We eat. You have to engage the body into the child's work.
So yeah, you really do engage with the families there. You don't just sit there and go, do this, do this, do this. You actually get involved with them, and it sort of opens up the kids here and gets them moving. And then also the parents, what sort of stuff do you do with the parents? Like, you just call it how it is and just, I don't know, just tell them how to do things, or do you have certain activities you do with the parents as well?
I mean, there are meditations we do with the parents. I had a family, and they were just could not connect. And I did a really deep breathing exercise with the dad. And then the moment he did it, he turned and he made what's called the damaging admission, which is one of the skills I teach to the daughter. She burst into tears, switched seats with mom. So she was sitting next to dad. Dad and daughter just held each other and cried while I started talking to mom. Now, this is the same dad who found his daughter dead on the floor and gave her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation until the paramedics arrived and intubated her because she had OD'd. And he is still traumatized. See, that's the work with the parents, is getting them to recognize they have caregiver's burden or caretaker's burden. They're traumatized too. They haven't dealt with their own shit and their own traumas, and they're terrified that they're going to lose their kid. So we have to resuscitate the parents into a place of saying, okay, now I'm ready to hear some new skills. Because I'll tell you what, Neil, I don't care how good the tools I teach are. If you ain't a carpenter, you're going to cause chaos, right? So first we got to teach parents how to be carpenters. Then you give them the tools. And carpenter work comes from self-care. You take care of yourself first. And then we start getting these parents focused on their relationship again, because they've been neglecting each other. They've been fighting. They've been taking the stress out on someone that they can trust. Or they're yelling at each other because their hearts are far apart. So this is about getting their relationship re-engaged. Hey, it's date night. Well, a kid might run away. Yeah. Might run away when you're at home fighting too. Well, yeah, they've done that. All right. So now we're going to go to the movies. You're going to go out to dinner for 1 hour. Only homework. You are not allowed to talk about the child at all. Nothing to do with the child. They never make it. They come home, but they're laughing about it. And humor is a sign of healing. So they'll come back and I'd be like, how'd you guys do? They'll be like, we lasted 20 minutes. I was like, but that's pretty good. And then they laugh. And then we say, what came up? Like, how did it start? They were like, it was totally unconscious, or she said something, I disagreed. She said that reminded, he said that was, so we deal with it. But you got to put the parents through the same level of intensive change that you put the kid through. Parents ask me all the time, when am I going to be able to trust my child? My response is always, about the same time your child's going to start to trust you. This is a family issue. This is not a child issue. Children are speaking the family language out loud. They are doing it with their behaviors. So if you don't address the family dialogue, it doesn't matter what you do with the child. The child will go back to the family, and to survive the family, will speak the family language. The reason why child treatment, adolescent treatment has failed, not just in my country, in your country, in every country, is because they don't work with the parents.
That's right, yeah.
And, we do a parent weekend. Fuck off. My adolescent treatment program, we did a parent 4-day intensive and weekly parent counseling. And myself and our clinical director had parenting podcasts. And we did parent coaching calls. And our clinical director did parent coaching calls. And the parents had a workbook and their own phases to move through. And like, the parents have to change. If you're a Spanish speaking, let me say it like this. Neil, if you've got a child and they speak in your home in Australia, they have an Australian accent.
Yeah.
Right? They speak English, but they speak with an Australian accent. Well, you have decided your child needs recovery. So you send them to Aaron's facility in Colorado, and they learn how to speak with an American accent because it's a different culture than the family in Australia, right? The family in Australia has a survival culture because this family's been in survival mode. So they start speaking with an American accent when they're around the Americans. And then they come home. How long do you think the American accent's going to last if the family's still speaking with an Australian accent?
Probably a couple of months.
Yeah, it's language. And listen, what you just said, Neil, is absolutely accurate. When a parent says, how long will these changes last? And I said, if you don't change, 6 weeks max. Month and a half, couple months at best, the old language will show up. But if the family changes the language, then the family language changes.
Wow, that's powerful, I tell ya. Because yeah, like you said, most of the time they'll just treat the kid, but they don't work with the family. They don't work with the parents, and work on the environment that's in the home. And I guess that's the most important thing, and then everything else will start to fall in place. Yeah.
Yeah, you'll start to have a normal teenager. And I don't know if you've met one. They're all crazy. But it's normal crazy, right?
Yeah.
It's not crazy with the side of fentanyl. It's not crazy with the side of suicide. It's not crazy with the side of self-harm. It's not crazy with the side of trafficking or porn addiction.
Yeah.
We are living in a time. Children are not less resilient than we were as kids. And adults love to say that. Oh, these children they're snowflakes. They're so less resilient. We had to deal with the same. No, we didn't. Find me one adult who had to practice live shooter drills in their schools. Find me one adult who grew up going to a public library that 3 out of every 10 books was hardcore pornography. That's the internet. 30% of the internet is hardcore pornography. So find me an adult who spent his days in a library where 3 out of every 10 books was hardcore pornography. Find me an adult who had the access to the Library of Alexandria, the sum total of human knowledge at their fingertips, from the light side to the shadow side, starting at the age of 0. Don't tell me we went through what they went through. We absolutely did not. Information has changed. The world has changed. Human development has not. These kids are more resilient than we used to be because they deal with a hell of a lot more than we did. Oh, we're all walking wounded. We're all walking traumatized. Don't get me wrong. But add a slice of 30% hardcore pornography to your life at all times.
It's different times. It's definitely different times that we live in. Just the accessibility of stuff, even like what we see in Australia, the drugs, with the internet. Everything's become far more accessible to what we did when I was growing up. Because you're right. There's no pornography around, or the internet was starting to come about, but there wasn't really much around. You had to go to one of those taboo shops, or the news agency might sell some stuff, but it was like Neil, always on the top shelf.
Neil, as a kid, there were 2 places that I was able to look at porn. My neighbor's house in the basement, in a basement closet where his dad kept the box of Playboys, or in a haystack out in the field behind the golf course where teenage boys had stashed some stuff. Nowadays, it gets sent to me daily on Instagram because I am a 53-year-old white male, and that is the highest demographic of looking at young girls and porn. And I block. Here's what happened. I sent this to some coworkers today because it's so funny. I've been blocking these women who want me to go to their OnlyFans pages so often that now I'm getting guys' OnlyFans pages ads showing up, and I'm like, what gets sent to me after I say no to all them too? I have no interest in this. I have none. I've never been to a strip club in my life.
Wow.
Like it's just, this is not in my purview of desire, right? That's just not, it's not It's not a religious thing. It's not a political thing. It's just not a thing for me. I have what I need. I have what I want. I have what I desire. But it gets sent to me every day because of my demographic, because of my profile. And you know that's happening to kids too?
Yeah. Well, what, getting sent porn or just being
absolutely
categorized into this is what your type of demographic like. So we're just going to. And that's the thing.
Absolutely. You don't think children are targets for pointed porn use and pointed drug use and pointed? They are absolute targets for it.
Yeah, I just think that the world we live in now, they're losing that delayed gratification. Because I always use this example. Yeah, you want to watch something, you don't need to wait anymore. You just click the button, and it's on. Back in the old days, you wanted something, you had to wait. You know what I mean? Even now, like, you don't want to cook, just use your phone and DoorDash will come deliver something to you. And so I started to think that they're artificially developing a ADHD nation as well at the same time. What do you reckon?
Because I know ADHD to be a neurodivergent brain chemistry or brain design makeup, I think that that's an oversimplification. Instant gratification can create impulsivity, and impulsivity can certainly develop into instant gratification tactics, drug use, porn use, things like that. And certainly impulsivity is one of the attributes of ADHD. But we cannot create ADHD superficially. It's created through genetics.
Yeah.
Brain chemistry can be altered so that we can reveal the same type of functioning as someone with ADHD. But we all look pretty distracted and impulsive and compulsive. That I agree with 1,000,000%.
Yeah. Well, look, I better wrap it up because we've just passed the hour mark there, Aaron. But I just wanted to thank you very much for your time coming onto my show.
Neil, it's a pleasure. I just want to say thank you for you stepping into the work that Robert and I do. I feel very blessed that you're with us. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to just speak to your crowd and your audience. And just know when we're doing our biweekly meetings and stuff like that and going through the stuff, when you feel distracted and everything and are tuning off in different directions, I know you're listening. I got you. I know you're still with us. I don't. And you'll see me that Robert will be teaching, and I'll just kind of like be looking over here and start to do this. You know, I'm still listening to every single word that's being said, but we got you. We're the neurodivergent superheroes in the bunch.
Thank you. So, if anyone wants to reach out, find out about any of your podcasts, how do they get in contact with you or check out your content?
Yeah, Facebook's always the best way. I'm a Facebook junkie. My name, Aaron Huey, Aaron, Huey, like the helicopter or the duck, Huey. You'll find me. I'm bald with a long goatee, shameless self-promoting myself constantly and everywhere. If you're a parent struggling with your kiddo, I have a Facebook group called Parenting Teens That Struggle. You are welcome to join the 4,500 moms and dads I got on there who are all watching each other's backs and looking out for each other. My podcast for parents is Beyond Risk and Back. My podcast for martial arts enthusiasts is called The Mat. And if you are interested, parents, in owning a workshop of the parenting process, it's $99 for 56 classes, which is a hell of a deal. This is everything I have ever taught parents ever. And it's at Brab, B-R-A-B-A-P-P, brabapp.com. Brab for Beyond Risk and Back application, brabapp.com. $99, a self-paced course that you have access to for the rest of your life.
Awesome. What I'll do is I'll chuck all the links in the description below of this video. But yeah, to everyone out there, don't forget to smash that subscribe button so you can keep in touch with me through all the content that I have out. Hit that notification bell so, YouTube gives you those alerts. But not only that, do us a favor and smash that like button so we can let the YouTube algorithm know how wonderful this content is. But from myself, Neil Coutts today, and Aaron Huey, thank you very much and have a good day.